Part 49. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 481. Dalong nodded slightly and said, After Erlong and I raised children, we will think of our master when we have nothing to do. Dalong has been thinking about doing something for his master, Erlong suddenly said. Hearing Erlong's voice, Dalong and Chen Hao looked at Erlong. Erlong looked at Chen Hao, and she said, Dalong, after leaving his master, he has been feeling guilty and blaming himself. He blames himself for not being able to stay with his master and being loyal to him. He always blames himself for not being able to stay with his master and being loyal. I want to do something for my master. Having said this, Erlong raised his face and looked at the statue in front of him. This statue was carved by the dragon with magic. Whenever the dragon misses his master, he will come here, look at the master's statue, and want to talk to the master. Erlong withdrew his gaze and looked at Chen Hao. Dalong often told me that looking at the statue is like looking at the owner. He said that the owner is omnipotent and omniscient. If you talk to the statue, you will definitely be able to listen to the owner. Arrived. Hearing this, Chen Hao also looked at the statue. It turns out that the statue is used for this purpose. It's just that Dalong has always wanted to do something for the master, but he never found the opportunity. Until the master engraved the truth into our minds. Erlong looked at Chen Hao and said, at that time, we felt that the master there is certainly some use in giving us these truths. Later, Dalong and Erlong felt that currently Yinglong has unified the VAF continent, but the VAF continent does not understand anything, and does not understand the master's truth at all. This is definitely not what the master wants to see, and the master must lack a preacher, so Dalong wants to be this preacher and spread the truth for his master. This is considered doing things for the master. Erlong looked at Chen Hao with a smile. Master, you don't know that Dalong does this, right? Upon hearing this, Dalong immediately looked at Chen Hao, his eyes looking straight as if expecting Chen Hao's answer. Now the changes in the entire Valve continent, the use of technology, the emergence of television, etc. are all thanks to Dalong. Dalong is not an information processor. The information processor can directly copy the information and then throw it into the opponent's memory, allowing the opponent to obtain a large amount of knowledge instantly. But not the big dragon. If Dalong wants to impart that knowledge, he needs to spend a lot of time and slowly tell others what he knows. This takes time, energy, and perseverance. It would take unimaginable energy to completely turn VAF continent into a technological civilization. But Dalong did it. And Dalong has paid so much, and he has only one purpose, and that is. Chen Hao smiled. Wolf continent is a wrong civilization. This civilization has always been in turmoil and chaos. They put the pursuit of power and the law of the forest first. No one conducts scientific research and no one understands these things. Truth. You have done a great job in guiding this wrong civilization onto the right path, Dalong, Chen Hao said with a smile. Hearing Chen Hao's affirmation, Dalong's eyes lit up. A smile suddenly broke out on his handsome face. Haha. He was happy. Dalong had always been a calm person, and rarely showed major mood swings. But at this moment, Dalong laughed out loud. Chen Hao looked at Dalong, who couldn't help laughing, with relief in his eyes. Although the reason why Dalong left Chen Hao was because Chen Hao said that he would let them choose what they wanted to do. The big dragon wanted to reproduce, so he took the two dragons back to Wolong Island. But even with Chen Hao's permission, despite Dalong's loyalty to Chen Hao, Dalong has been condemned by his own heart since he left Chen Hao. He had been blaming himself, and this self-blame accumulated over time. He even began to regret his original decision and regret that he should not have left Chen Hao. In order to make up for the crime he committed, he wanted to do something to make amends. Spreading the truth for Chen Hao was the only thing he could do. So he did it. He spent all his energy to do it, and he completed it very well. directly converting a solidified magic civilization into a technological civilization, and transforming the original VAF civilization that had gone the wrong way. Get back on track. He has paid so much, and his only purpose is to hear a word of affirmation from Chen Hao. In this way, he knows that his contribution will be meaningful, and his compensation will be effective. And now, after hearing Chen Hao's affirmation, the self-blame he had accumulated over time finally found an outlet. Therefore, after receiving Chen Hao's affirmation, Dalong couldn't help laughing. However, after he just laughed out loud, he quickly put away his voice, suppressed his emotions forcibly, and looked at Chen Hao. If Dalong can get the approval of his master, the things Dalong has done will be meaningful. Dalong was very happy. He wanted to laugh, but he didn't want to lose etiquette in front of his master, so he suppressed his emotions. Looking at Dalong's meticulous attitude, Chen Hao smiled, nodded slightly, and then said seriously, "Big dragon." Dalong was startled and looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao said with a smile, "I will always be the master of you and Erlong. God Realm owns your and Erlong's home. If you want to go home, you can go home at any time. The master will never forget you and Erlong." Dalong was stunned, his whole body started to tremble, and tears burst out of his eyes. "Master." His voice was trembling. Chen Hao looked at the big dragon's tearful eyes and realized something. The big dragon is the same as the big wolf. After they left the God Realm, they could all return to the God Realm. The big dragon and the big wolf had stayed on the WAF star for so long, so they naturally knew where the portal to the God Realm was. They could all go back, no one would stop them, and no one could stop them. But after they left the God Realm, they never returned to the God Realm once. Why? Obviously, they felt that they had no face to return to the God Realm, and they had no face to return to the God Realm to see their master. In the eyes of the big dragon and the big wolf, they had abandoned their master and betrayed their master. So they have been condemned by their conscience, so they have never returned to the God Realm. When Chen Hao said this and told them that the God Realm would always be their home, the big wolf was excited. Tears also overflowed from the big dragon's eyes. God, the big dragon is now a dragon god. But as a dragon god, he couldn't help crying. Dalong raised his hand to wipe away his tears, and he looked at Chen Hao. "Master, Dalong knows, Dalong is too stupid, Dalong should know." "Master, thank you for your forgiveness." Dalong was like a child who made a mistake, and he kept saying thank you. Looking at Dalong's actions, he smiled and raised his hand. A warp engine channel appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao looked at Dalong and smiled and said, "This is a warp engine channel leading to the God Realm. Anyone who is related to you and Erlong can go to the God Realm through this warp engine channel. When you have time, remember to go home often. Your brothers and sisters miss you." Dalong nodded repeatedly, Okay, master. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world." Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 482. Chen Hao looked at Dalong, he smiled and was about to say something. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Chen Hao's mind. "Hao, I have to go." Chen Hao was startled when he heard this sound. It was the sound of an angel bell. There was a trace of doubt in Chen Hao's eyes. He turned sideways, walked aside, and asked, "What happened?" Angel Bell suddenly wanted to leave, which puzzled Chen Hao. Dalong and Erlong looked at each other with doubts in their eyes, and they both looked at Chen Hao. Angel Bell responded, "There is a fight on the main star. A group of fallen angels intend to kill Bai Ling and destroy the faith of the current angels. Bai Ling summoned all the angels to return to the main star for support, so I have to leave. Although I want to stay by your side, no matter what, I am a warrior of the angel civilization. I have to go back to support my sisters." Hearing this, Chen Hao understood. "Be safe," he said. Angel Ling helped him a lot. Her purpose was not pure, but no matter whether it was pure or not, in Chen Hao's heart, this guy was already his friend. His friend was going back to join the war, so Chen Hao naturally had to warn him to pay attention to his safety. Well, actually, I want to hear other words more, but I can't hear them now. I hope I can come back alive next time and hear what I want to hear. Angel Ling's voice was full of relaxation and smile. Chen Hao was silent and didn't say anything. Chen Hao is not stupid, he can understand Angel Ling's thoughts. War exists in both low-level civilizations and high-level civilizations. Wars in low-level civilizations will lead to death, and wars in high-level civilizations will also lead to death. This time Angel Bell goes, that is, to participate in the war. As a warrior, she must fight tooth and nail, and of course she may die. A warrior will always die, so if a warrior likes someone, he will pursue it with all his strength, at least to create a good story before death. This was what Angel Ling said to Chen Hao. This was also the beginning of Angel Ling's passion for Chen Hao. Therefore, Angel Ling hoped that she could get a perfect answer from Chen Hao before participating in this war. But it's a pity that Chen Hao only regards Angel Bell as a friend, nothing more. Therefore, Chen Hao could not give Angel Bell an answer, so he could only remain silent. Hey, see you next time. The voice of Angel Bell came. Chen Hao responded, I hope you can come back safely. See you next time. Haha, okay, I will come back safely. If I can come back alive, I will give you a big hug. Angel Bell's voice was full of joy. Immediately, the sound of the angel bell disappeared. Chen Hao couldn't help but slowly raised his face and looked at the blue sky above. War is an eternal theme. There will be wars in both low-level and high-level civilizations. Or competing for rights, or competing for resources, etc. I hope you will be safe, Chen Hao muttered as he looked at the blue sky and white clouds above. No matter what, Angel Bell is his friend. Ever since the Dharma God incident, Chen Hao never wanted to see anyone around him get into trouble again. That affects the mood too much. Only nothing can be done. Frankly speaking, Chen Hao's current strongest combat power is Little Diamond, but in a civilized war at the level of the angel civilization, Little Diamond's strength is far from enough. Owner. Suddenly, a voice came from the side. Chen Hao came back to his senses and looked at Dalong beside him. I saw Dalong and Erlong looking at me with worry in their eyes. What happened? Is there anything Dalong can help with? Dalong asked cautiously. Hearing this, Chen Hao knew that it was the helpless look he showed just now that made Dalong and Erlong worried. Chen Hao adjusted his mood and showed a smile. Don't worry, I'm fine. If you two have time, go to the God Realm for a walk. You and Big Wolf haven't seen each other for a long time, and Big Wolf has also. I plan to return to the God Realm, you can chat anywhere. Dalong nodded slightly, yes. Chen Hao said, I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Dalong looked at Chen Hao, raised his hand, put it in front of his chest, and saluted Chen Hao, best farewell to the master. Information processor, build a warp channel. I want to see how Little Diamond is doing after swallowing it, Chen Hao said aloud. Instructions received, instructions are being carried out. A dark warp tunnel entrance appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao stepped in. Passing through the warp tunnel, Chen Hao's figure appeared in the universe. The feet are on the void, and the body is in a suspended state. Chen Hao suddenly had an idea and placed a platform made of rocks at Chen Hao's feet. Chen Hao stood on the platform, and vines grew on the rock platform behind him. The vines twisted themselves around to form the shape of a chair, and eventually formed a vine chair. Chen Hao sat on the vine chair and looked ahead. In front of Chen Hao's eyes, there was a sea of red. The small diamond star is swallowing the brown dwarf. The size of the brown dwarf has shrunk a lot compared to before, and its current volume is estimated to be less than 1/10 of its original size. A large amount of material breaks away from the brown dwarf and enters the small diamond star. The gas outside the small diamond star rubs against the brown dwarf gas entering its body, causing the outside of the small diamond to look red. This red color is caused by ignition due to atmospheric friction. It has nothing to do with nuclear fusion. And at this moment, Chen Hao touched his chin. I always feel that the volume of the little diamond is smaller than before. Before, the more mass the little diamond gained, the larger her volume was, but now Chen Hao can be sure that the volume of the little diamond is smaller than before. This is very strange. The whole of the little diamond star is compressing. Chen Hao thought about it for a while and got the answer. Because the little diamond star has gained more and more matter, the gravity generated by those materials is too strong, and it has compressed itself. In other words, although the volume of the little diamond star has become smaller, the mass has increased. At this speed, at most the little diamond will be able to swallow it all by tomorrow, Chen Hao muttered. Anyway, there is nothing to do, just watch how it becomes a red dwarf. Time passed little by little. Chen Hao could see that the little diamond star was slowly rotating, and the brown dwarf was rotating along the rotation of the little diamond star, and then the matter was sinking into the body of the little diamond star little by little. As time went by, Chen Hao noticed that although the diamond star was gaining matter, its volume was getting smaller and smaller. Chen Hao suddenly saw that the volume of the diamond star was shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is. Chen Hao's pupils condensed. There was too much matter, and the diamond star could no longer withstand its own gravity. Suddenly, the volume of the diamond star, as a brown dwarf, suddenly shrank. After shrinking to a certain extent, suddenly, the volume suddenly increased. At the same time, waves of scorching red air rippled. Chen Hao could feel a scorching breath coming towards him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 483. The size of the small diamond star expanded rapidly. The brown dwarf star that had not been swallowed up by the small diamond was directly submerged by the huge expanded body of the small diamond star as the small diamond expanded. Soon, a giant red fireball appeared in front of Chen Hao's eyes. Its body, which is far larger than a brown dwarf, is slowly rotating, and on the periphery, scorching red flames are swimming like ocean waves. At this moment, the little diamond has left the realm of the planet. Officially entered the realm of stars. It is detected that the strongest beast you possess has reached the star level, and the information processor begins to evolve. The information processor evolved into a material editor. A mechanical voice sounded in Chen Hao's mind. Chen Hao's eyes lit up slightly. Evolved. Suddenly, an information bar appeared in front of Chen Hao. Through the information bar, he could see the information about the behemoth in front of him. Red dwarf small diamond. The mass is 89 Jupiter masses. Seeing this, Chen Hao showed a relieved smile. Little diamond has finally entered the realm of stars. Chen Hao raised his head and looked at the red dwarf star in front of him. Before diamond evolved into a red dwarf, she was a brown dwarf. There is only one word difference between brown dwarf and red dwarf, but they are worlds apart. No proof is needed, just look at the red dwarf star in front of you, and then think about the brown dwarf star Chen Hao saw before, you can know the difference. What can be seen outside the brown dwarf is a brown atmosphere, as if something is burning inside the atmosphere. And now what can be seen about the red dwarf star is the scorching red flame surrounding it. A red dwarf is a true plasma star, while a brown dwarf is more like a burning planet. Chen Hao was thinking about the red dwarf star shrinking in size and then expanding. When the mass of the planet reaches a certain level, the planet will not be able to withstand its own gravity and will be compressed by its own gravity. When this pressure reaches a certain level, first the tritium element in the body will be affected by various factors such as pressure and temperature, leading to nuclear fusion, but there are few tritium elements and the energy that can be exploded is small, so it cannot vaporize all its own materials into plasma. But when the planet that becomes a brown dwarf continues to acquire material and the gravity continues to increase, and when it cannot withstand the gravity and the hydrogen in the body cannot withstand this pressure, causing nuclear fusion, then the planet will really it has evolved into a real star. Chen Hao smiled when he thought of this. Suddenly, the red dwarf star glowed with red light. The entire body is covered in light, and then shrinks at a speed visible to the naked eye. It shrunk to human form and landed in front of Chen Hao. Turned into a figure. The appearance of Little Diamond appeared in front of Chen Hao. She looked at Chen Hao with her diamond-like eyes and said, "Master, I feel that I have become stronger." Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, well, he has indeed become stronger. When Little Diamond heard this, she smiled. She raised her hand, looked at her own hand, and shook it. Suddenly, she seemed to realize something, her smile slowly faded, and she looked at Chen Hao, "But, Master, I feel that my strength is still not enough." Hearing this, Chen Hao's smile froze. He put away his smile and nodded slightly. Indeed, it is still not enough. Although a red dwarf is a star, you must know that some advanced civilizations are not afraid of stars at all, and they even have super weapons specifically designed to destroy stars. It's not enough. Chen Hao looked at Little Diamond, "You have to continue to become stronger." Little Diamond hummed, and she nodded firmly. Chen Hao said with a smile, "Before that, go back to the God Realm Star and get together with your sisters. As for me, I still have some things to do." Little Diamond nodded, "Okay. Master, Little Diamond is leaving first." Little Diamond greeted Chen Hao. After saying that, Little Diamond disappeared from the spot. Chen Hao looked at the place where the Little Diamond disappeared, and he slowly stretched his eyebrows. "What is a substance editor?" Chen Hao asked. As the small diamond evolved to the star level, the information processor also evolved to the material editor. But what is a substance editor? The substance editor inherits and evolves all the original functions of the information processor. At the same time, it also gives you the ability to edit substances. Material editor, Chen Hao blinked, "What do you mean? Would you like to convert the method of using the substance editor directly into information and implant it into your information database?" came the voice of the substance editor. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly, "Implantation. I almost forgot that the substance editor, which inherits the functions used by the information processor, also has the function of information implantation." Suddenly, Chen Hao felt like something was being poured into his head. That's the information, how to use the substance editor. Chen Hao read this piece of information and understood. Chen Hao raised his hand. In Chen Hao's empty hand, a diamond-shaped silver substance suddenly appeared. Seeing this substance, Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows. The substance editor can edit the substances of celestial bodies of red dwarf star level and celestial bodies below red dwarf star level. This substance editor can directly change the elemental structure of a substance. It is even possible to generate matter out of thin air. Just like the silver substance suspended in Chen Hao's hand now. This silver substance is the silver substance compiled by Chen Hao. At present, the material editor can only compile materials that exist in this known universe. If the material does not exist, it cannot be used. Silver substance. Chen Hao raised his hand and looked at the silver suspended in his hand. I remember Angel Bell said that silver is a very precious material and can only be synthesized artificially. At present, only the 7 major civilizations in the entire known universe can synthesize this material. I didn't expect, now this material is directly edited by me. This is the ability of material editing. In addition to this, book, the universal book appeared in front of Chen Hao. If his guess is correct, the current star-catching ring should also have evolved. Thinking of this, Chen Hao opened the universal book and opened the card slot where the star-catching ring card was used before. Inside, a card lay quietly in the card slot. Star-catching ring card. Chen Hao was slightly startled. No change, Chen Hao thought. He picked up the card and glanced at it. Star-catching ring card. Description: currently, it can capture celestial bodies of red dwarf level and below. Seeing this, Chen Hao's eyes lit up. He smiled. So that's it? The name hasn't changed, but the function has evolved. It couldn't capture stars before, but now it can capture red dwarfs among stars. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 484. The information processor evolved into a material editor, and the ability of the star-catching ring was also improved. But, in addition to these, there is another thing that Chen Hao thinks is the most important. Chen Hao asked, what is the current speed of the warp engine? The warp engine that can be constructed can reach 1,000 times the speed of light. The voice of the built-in AI of the material editor came. Hearing this, Chen Hao frowned. It seems that the technology possessed by the 7 civilizations is still stronger than the current material editor. Thinking of this, Chen Hao opened the universal book and took out a card from the universal book. Crayo's card. Next, Chen Hao opened it and used the star-catching ring to capture a red dwarf star to evolve Xiaoying. But now Angel Bell has left, and although the speed of the warp engine on his side has been greatly improved, it is only 1,000 times the speed of light, which is far less fast than the 10,000 times the warp engine of the advanced civilization. Chen Hao said in his heart, AI opens the celestial map. Chen Hao was too lazy to call the material editor by its full name, because this thing will definitely continue to evolve in the future, and then he will have to change the name. Now Chen Hao simply called it AI. After all, this thing is just like the AI of a smartphone, and can only give simple mechanical answers. As Chen Hao's voice fell, a transparent sphere appeared in front of Chen Hao. The images projected in the sphere were the distribution maps of various celestial bodies. And in the middle of the sphere was Chen Hao's position, surrounded by various celestial bodies. Chen Hao said, AI searches for the nearest red dwarf to us. Received the command, searching. As the voice of AI sounded, the projection in the sphere quickly enlarged and then stopped at the position of one of the red dwarfs. The search has been completed, and the nearest red dwarf to you is 9 light-years away. Hearing this, Chen Hao's eyes lit up slightly. 9 light-years, a bit close. This 9 light-years surprised Chen Hao a little. Before, you know that the distance is hundreds of light-years. However, red dwarfs can be said to be the most numerous stars in the universe. Of course, if Chen Hao limits the conditions and limits the red dwarf to a red dwarf with a mass lower than that of a small diamond, then the distance may not be so close. But Chen Hao didn't care. Now he just wanted to get a red dwarf star to convert it into a crystal block, and then evolve Xiaoying. As for how big the mass of the red dwarf star is, it doesn't matter. Chen Hao said, transform. The Crayo card in his hand turned into a figure. It was the figure of Crayo. Crayo stood in front of Chen Hao, staring at Chen Hao, Master. Its voice sounded, and the hoarse and gender indistinguishable voice seemed to come from the abyss, extremely creepy. Even Chen Hao felt a little uncomfortable after hearing it. Chen Hao looked at Crayo's face. Crayo's face was covered by an exoskeleton, which was similar to the black carapace of an insect, and was not human skin tissue at all. The face covered with an exoskeleton armor that looked like an insect carapace had the facial features of a human woman, which looked even more creepy. Of course, for Chen Hao, he had seen a lot of strange things. Seeing this kind of face would not scare him, but it would inevitably feel a little uncomfortable. However, Crayo's body is not like the beasts. Much of his body is made up of nanorobots, so he can change freely. Creo's appearance cannot change, and Chen Hao cannot make it change its appearance, so Chen Hao can only adapt. Chen Hao said, "AI, send the coordinates of the red dwarf to Creo." Chen Hao looked at Creo, "I just sent you the coordinates of where I want to go. Next, help me open the warp engine channel to that coordinate." Creo nodded slightly, "Master, I need to return to Creo and use Creo to build a warp engine channel." Hearing this, Chen Hao thought of Angel Bell's Bai Ling. Angel Bell also needs to operate Bai Ling to build a warp engine channel. It seems that the Zerg civilization and the Angel civilization have similar methods of building warp engines. Chen Hao nodded slightly and said, "Okay." As he spoke, Chen Hao looked around, "Is your Creo nearby?" "Okay, after I came here a while ago, I asked Creo to remotely control it and asked it to come here. Now it is nearby," Creo explained. Chen Hao was about to ask Creo to take him to its warship. Suddenly, Chen Hao felt a black screen in front of his eyes. He was stunned for a moment, raised his face and looked forward. I saw a giant warship in front of Chen Hao. This warship is spherical and made of black metal. It looks like an artificial celestial body. Obviously, this is Creo's Creo. The spherical warship in front suddenly opened, revealing a black deck. The spherical warship slowly moved down and turned the deck to the platform here. Creo walked forward and stepped on the deck. When Creo stepped on the deck, a green halo lit up on the deck, and green data of 0 and 1 flashed all over the battleship. Chen Hao noticed that Creo's pupils were filled with green data of 0 and 1. Seeing this, Chen Hao knew that Creo was operating and was now building a warp engine channel. Chen Hao moved his body and landed on the deck. He looked at the battleship in front of him. Black. Looking at this battleship, Chen Hao had only one thought, that is black. Really black, the whole battleship was black. On the deck, there was a metal entrance under a hole, the entrance was also black. Chen Hao didn't know if the inside of the battleship was also black. Chen Hao looked at Creo, who was dressed in black. It seemed that Creo had a unique preference for black. Suddenly, Chen Hao felt something moving. He turned his head and saw a black hole appeared in front of the spherical battleship. That was the entrance to the warp engine channel. The entrance was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, the entrance to the warp engine channel was large enough to fit into the entire Creo battleship. Creo stopped operating, it looked at the entrance to the warp engine channel, and then looked at Chen Hao. "Master, the warp channel is built." Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly. Change. A card appeared in front of Chen Hao. It was the God Realm Star card. Chen Hao put the God Realm Star card into the Universal Book, and then looked at Creo. "Let's go." "Yes," Creo responded. Suddenly, a barrier appeared, and the black barrier enveloped Chen Hao and Creo in the battleship. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 485. This spherical battleship once again became a real sphere. The entire Creo started, and it slowly entered the warp engine channel. But through this barrier, I saw myself entering the warp engine channel. Chen Hao was ready and passed out as before. Suddenly, Chen Hao felt his eyes go dark. Chen Hao found that after his eyesight turned dark, there was darkness in front of him and he couldn't see anything. What's going on? Chen Hao couldn't see anything with his naked eyes, so he chose to open Little Diamond's vision. Through the vision ability shared by Little Diamond, he could clearly see the situation at the moment. He was standing on the deck of the Creo at the moment. The Creo was flying forward, and at this moment the Creo was in the warp engine channel. Seeing this, Chen Hao knew what was going on. He did not lose consciousness. Chen Hao was stunned for a moment, then his thoughts changed and he understood. He subconsciously looked at the barrier in front of him. This black barrier was a quantum barrier. The battleship Creo is different from Angel Bell's battleship. Everything inside this battleship will be wrapped in a quantum barrier, so Chen Hao will not lose consciousness at all. The corner of Chen Hao's mouth twitched. He was ready to lose consciousness. Chen Hao said, "Cleo, this battleship of yours has no lights." "Master, do you need a light?" Cleo suddenly said. "Nonsense," Chen Hao said directly. As Chen Hao's voice fell, the surroundings suddenly lit up. The surroundings became extremely bright. Chen Hao could see that the ground was lit up, and the black barrier above also lit up. This black ball turned into a ball of light at this moment. Creo said, "The Zerg do not need light, so this battleship was not equipped with lights at the beginning." Creo did not expect that the master needed it. Creo was too ignorant. "Stop being ignorant," Chen Hao interrupted Creo's self-blame. He crossed his arms and said, "Prepare a place for me immediately. I want a bigger place. I want to sleep." "Yes," Creo said, "Master, come with me." With that said, Cleo led Chen Hao inside. Cleo brought Chen Hao to an extremely spacious room. When he entered the room, Chen Hao was slightly startled. He looked at the layout of the room and found that there was a sofa and a bed. It looks almost exactly like his room on the God Realm star. This is when Chen Hao looked at Cleo. Creo said, "I don't think the master will like the layout of the Zerg's room, so I just asked Creo to rearrange it. I wonder if the master likes it." Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, "It's been well done." Frankly speaking, if Chen Hao was asked to sleep in the Zerg room, he was worried that the room would be wet and full of rotten smell. Seeing this, a very familiar arrangement, Chen Hao felt much better. The distance of this warp engine channel is 9 light years. At the speed of 10,000 times the warp engine, it actually takes less than a few hours. Just lie down for a while. Thinking about it, Chen Hao entered the room. He sat on the bed and noticed Cleo, who was still standing beside him. Chen Hao said with a smile, "I'm going to rest. You don't have to stay with me all the time. If I need anything, I will come to you." "Yes." Cleo walked away. Chen Hao watched Cleo's figure disappear from the door and watched the door close. He stretched his eyebrows and slowly lay down on the soft bed, looking at the ceiling above. He took a deep breath, and the air here was actually exactly the same as on the God Realm star. At first, Creo didn't even notice that Chen Hao needed light to see clearly. However, after being scolded by Chen Hao, it also improved and was able to prepare for Chen Hao in advance. Yes, there is progress. Chen Hao was very relieved. He slowly closed his eyes and lay on the bed to rest. Cleo returned to his room, which was dark. "That's weird," a voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this sound, Creo was startled and looked towards the source of the sound. The lights in the room come on. Creo could see that there was another person in the room. That charming woman with 3 tails behind her stood there with a smile on her face and looked at Creo playfully. When Creo looked at it, he frowned. "Monster tribesman, what are you doing here?" When the woman heard this, the corners of her mouth raised slightly. "I am your master's future woman. I am here to ask you a few questions." Cleo stared at Chen Hao. "As far as I know, my master does not have a partner, future." "Haha," the woman smiled, "your master is not a Zerg. He is similar to a person from the Pangu civilization, so he has feelings and emotional needs. If he doesn't have them now, it doesn't mean he won't have them in the future." Cleo stared at the woman. "What do you want to do when you come here?" The woman looked at the expressionless Creo and crossed her arms. "I want to ask you a question. I remember you, Creo, the master of the planet Creo and a dignified 4th-generation warrior. Why are you like this? As a person, will you choose to be loyal to him? I have some doubts about you. I don't want someone who pretends to be loyal but is actually not loyal to my lover." The woman stared at Creo, and her smile slowly faded. Hearing this, Creo slowly said, "My loyalty to my master is stronger than anything else." "Why?" the woman said lightly. Why would you be loyal to him? You can even betray the insect king, so why do you think you will be loyal to him? Cryo looked at the woman. The woman crossed her arms and stared at Cryo with a vigilant look. She said slowly, if you threaten him, I will definitely get rid of you. When Cryo heard it, it slowly said, as long as you know who he is, no one dares to disobey him. The woman was stunned. He? What do you mean? She frowned. Who do you think he is? Cryo's face did not show any emotion. He is the master of all things, the creator of this universe. The 7 civilizations were created by him, and the 7 main gods were also created by him. In front of him, I am not even as good as an ant. I can be loyal to him and work for him. It is my eternal glory. The woman's pupils condensed slightly, and her expression changed slightly. What did you say? He is the master of all things. The woman frowned and said, impossible. Cryo stared at the woman. Is it possible? You judge it yourself. You are kind to the master, so I can answer your question just now. The answer has been given to you. As for whether you believe it or not, it is purely up to you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 486. Lord of All Things. Cai Yan's eyes were filled with an incredible luster. How is this possible? Cai Yan adjusted her mood and looked at Cryo, who had no emotion on his face. She said, I know. Cai Yan disappeared on the spot. Cryo looked at the place where Cai Yan disappeared, and he slowly closed his eyes. The room fell into darkness. On the other side, Cai Yan appeared in the room where Chen Hao was. She stood in the room, watching Chen Hao resting on the bed. Her eyes shone with a glimmer. Lord of all things. Lord of all things is also recorded in the demon clan. It is the creator of all things and the body of this universe. All life, matter, and soul in the entire universe are part of it. This is the Lord of all things recorded by the demon clan, but no existence has ever seen the Lord of all things. Lord of all things is more like a legendary existence. If it weren't for the records of the existence of the Lord of all things, no one would think that the Lord of all things really exists. All-knowing and omnipotent, the master of all things. Such an existence. Unconsciously, Cai Yan walked to the edge of Chen Hao's bed. She looked at Chen Hao sleeping on the bed, her eyes shone with luster. Could it be you? Her eyebrows slightly wrinkled. Impossible, impossible. If it is really the Lord of all things, such an existence, he doesn't need to rely on Cryo's warp engine at all. Thinking of this, Cai Yan's eyebrows spread out, and she understood. It seems that Chen Hao used some high-dimensional civilization technology to brainwash Cryo, making Cryo mistakenly believe that Chen Hao is such a being. This way, Cryo will be absolutely loyal to Chen Hao. Speaking of this, Cai Yan smiled. The technology of high-dimensional civilization is really amazing. It is very impolite to stare at others when they are sleeping. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Cai Yan was startled. She showed a charming smile, then took 3 steps back, and said in a voice that was numb to the bone, "Honey, are you awake?" Chen Hao opened his eyes, turned his head, and looked at Cai Yan beside him. He said, "When you sleep, if someone walks around next to you, I believe that anyone can sleep." He slowly got up, sat up, leaned against the head of the bed, and looked at Cai Yan. "Tell me, what are you doing this time?" Hearing this, Cai Yan raised the corners of her mouth and looked at Chen Hao playfully. The 3 fluffy tails behind her were shaking. She smiled and said, "Whatever you want me to do, I will do it. As long as you want, I will cooperate." The charming face combined with the numb voice was enough to make all male creatures who heard it start to secrete hormones. Adding Cai Yan's words, it is estimated that any man would go crazy. Of course, this had no effect on Chen Hao. Chen Hao looked at Cai Yan. Are you not good at seducing men? Cai Yan was startled, she blinked and looked at Chen Hao. She smiled, do you think I'm not good at it? Yet Chen Hao crossed his arms, you are not good at it? Even Angel Bell knows that a normal man doesn't like a casual woman. And you keep trying like this, it's not good. Cai Yan crossed her arms under her chest and looked at Chen Hao. She smiled and said, then you said that, I was wrong. Yeah, Chen Hao looked at Cai Yan, am I wrong? Well, what you said is indeed not wrong, but your statement is based on the fact that a woman does not understand a man. Cai Yan gave an explanation. She smiled and said, if a woman does not understand a man and devotes herself casually, it means that the woman is very casual. If the man is also a casual person, then the man will definitely not cherish the woman. But if the man is not a casual person, but a very responsible person, then I think it is reasonable for a woman to devote herself to him. Cai Yan looked at Chen Hao with a smile on her lips. She said, as for me, I have investigated you since I knew you. As she said, she waved her hand. A 3D projection appeared in front of Chen Hao. What is she doing? Chen Hao was a little puzzled, and he looked at the projection. Chen Hao was stunned when he saw it. From this projection, Chen Hao can see himself. In the projection, he is in the Warcraft forest, and he can also see himself feeding milk to the big wolves. What is this? Chen Hao looked at Cai Yan in confusion. Cai Yan crossed her arms and smiled and said, I have been to Waf Star and collected the dark information you left on Waf Star. After that, I used my 3-tail number to deduce what you did on Waf Star. From what you have done, I fully understand what kind of person you are. You are very responsible, kind, and gentle. So, even if I take the initiative to be more enthusiastic and devote myself to you, you will not let me down. Cai Yan looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, is that right? Chen Hao was slightly stunned. He did not expect that advanced civilizations could actually do this. Chen Hao glanced at himself in the projection, then he retracted his gaze and looked at Cai Yan. Kaiyan smiled and said, also, I am really not very good at seducing men, because I have never been with a man. The only physical contact with a man is during a fight. Basically, I have direct contact with the opposite sex. Now they are all corpses. As she said that, Kaiyan looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, maybe you think I'm a little casual, but this kind of casualness is only for you, not others. Chen Hao looked at Cai Yan. Chen Hao nodded slightly, I understand, it seems that I underestimated the demon civilization. If the demon civilization wants to engage in a honey trap, it must have known Chen Hao and who he is. Naturally, it is impossible for the demon civilization to dedicate a random woman to itself. It's because I underestimated the beauty trap of the demon civilization. But so what? Chen Hao looked at Cai Yan, didn't you just say that you would cooperate with whatever I asked you to do? Kaiyan's eyes lit up slightly, and she smiled, yes, then, dear, what do you want to do for you? Although I have never had contact with the opposite sex, I have seen a lot in order to have contact with you. Information, I know a lot of things. For it. Chen Hao touched the back of his head and looked at Cai Yan, I want to go to sleep, so I want you to cooperate and leave from my eyes so that I can have a good rest. Kaiyan's smile froze. Kaiyan pursed her thin lips and said with a smile, okay then, I'll take my leave then. Kaiyan's figure disappeared from the spot. Chen Hao looked at the place where Kaiyan disappeared. He slowly withdrew his gaze and lay on the bed, looking at the ceiling above. So, do advanced civilizations even know their own past and what they have done in the past? Sure enough, advanced civilization is advanced civilization. It's that simple to know everything about a person. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 487. Chen Hao thought about it and slowly closed his eyes. Master, suddenly, a voice sounded. Chen Hao woke up from his dream, opened his eyes and looked to his side. Next to him, Creo was standing there, looking at Chen Hao. Eyes facing each other. Chen Hao slowly stood up, leaned against the head of the bed, and looked at Creo. What's wrong? Creo said, Master, we are here. Arrive. When Chen Hao heard this, he got off the bed. Chen Hao always felt that he would be here just after a little sleep. Kind of fast. Also normal. A distance of 9 light years is nothing at all for a warp engine running at 10,000 times the speed of light, and it can be reached in just a few hours. Chen Hao stood up. Following Creo to the deck of this spherical battleship, the barrier on the deck has been opened. Chen Hao stood on the deck of the battleship and looked forward. He could see a celestial body glowing with red light directly in front of him. Because it is a bit far away, what I can see so far is only the size of a basketball. As soon as Chen Hao had a thought, his figure disappeared from the spot. When Chen Hao appeared again, he appeared in front of the red dwarf star. Chen Hao looked at the red dwarf star in front of him, and his pupils condensed slightly. It's so big. When he looked at the little diamond before, Chen Hao could also feel the hugeness, but because the distance was relatively far, the feeling was not that strong. But now that we are closer, when this huge red fireball is placed in front of us, that feeling is particularly obvious. An information bar appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao looked. The red dwarf star in front of us has a mass of 91 Jupiters. It is larger than a small diamond. If little diamond wants to devour it, it is best to choose to devour some stars that are smaller than her. Red dwarf stars like this, which are larger than little diamond, are obviously not suitable for little diamond. If little diamond is allowed to swallow him, he may not know who swallowed whom. Of course, Chen Hao's purpose of coming here this time was not to let little diamond swallow this thing. Book, Chen Hao said. The universal book appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao opened the universal book and took out the star-catching ring card. Change. The star-catching ring turns into a red ring. This ring appears at the equator of the red dwarf star, like a planetary ring, surrounding the red dwarf star. The red ring lit up with red light, and the light instantly enveloped the entire red dwarf star. Chen Hao looked at the scene in front of him, with a glint in his eyes. On the other side, Kaiyan, who was not far away, also looked at this scene, her eyes full of surprise. What is he doing? Kaiyan murmured to herself, feeling a little confused. Suddenly, the red ring disappears along with the red dwarf star. But the moment these two things disappeared, Kaiyan was stunned for a moment, and she looked in the direction of Chen Hao with some surprise. There were two more cards in front of Chen Hao. One is the Star Catcher card, and the other, Red Dwarf Unnamed Star. Chen Hao looked at the red dwarf star, smiled, and stretched out his hand to take it. AI, convert this card into crystal blocks. The card glowed white, the light brightened slightly, and there was a conversion progress bar on the card. How long will it take? Chen Hao asked. AI responded, at the current conversion speed, it will take 10 years to complete the conversion. 10 years, the smile on Chen Hao's face disappeared. He frowned, I almost forgot about this. It takes time to convert matter into pure energy crystals. As the strongest beast you own evolves into a red dwarf, the speed of transformation will also increase. Now it is estimated that the transformation will be very fast like the yellow wind star. But converting an entire red dwarf star is not that simple. 10 years, is too long. I can only wait slowly. Before that, let's continue to cultivate little diamond, Chen Hao muttered. On the other side, Cai Yan was already stunned. Her mouth was slightly opened and she was staring blankly in the direction of Chen Hao. Chen Hao's figure disappeared. Kaiyan slowly closed her mouth. He put away a red dwarf star and turned it into a card. This Kaiyan was a little unbelievable. Even as a senior warrior of the demon civilization, one of the 7 major civilizations, when she saw this happening with her own eyes, she had a hard time believing that such a thing actually happened before her eyes. That's a red dwarf star. Kaiyan murmured to herself. Kaiyan adjusted her mood and pursed her lower lip. His technology left behind by the high-latitude civilization is indeed perverted. No wonder the angel civilization, the strongest civilization in the known universe, would also choose to be friends with him. Kaiyan withdrew her gaze and disappeared from the spot. At the same time, Chen Hao's figure appeared on the deck of the battleship Creo. I need to find the closest celestial body to me, with a mass that is less than 80 Jupiter masses, Chen Hao said aloud. The mass of the red dwarf star formed by the small diamond is currently 89 Jupiter masses. To ensure that small diamonds can swallow other celestial bodies without risk, Chen Hao believes that the mass of the other celestial body is at least less than 80 Jupiter masses, so that it is safe. Getting orders, searching. Search successful. As the AI's voice sounded, a 3D celestial body map appeared in front of Chen Hao's eyes. Through this celestial map, Chen Hao can see the location of the target celestial body, and at the same time determine its distance from his own location. A distance of 367 light-years. Chen Hao frowned. Sure enough, the situation of 9 light-years is relatively rare. Hundreds of light-years are normal. It doesn't matter, anyway, there is a 10,000 times warp engine. Chen Hao looked at Creo beside him. Can you see the celestial body in this image? Yes, Creo gave the answer. Chen Hao said, let's go, our next destination is the location of the celestial body. Hearing this, Creo said, yes. How long does it take to get from here to there with your warp engine? Chen Hao asked. Creo gave the answer, 13 days. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly. You let Creo turn off the quantum barrier acting on me. Creo was startled, and it looked at Chen Hao. Obviously, Creo couldn't understand Chen Hao's idea. Yes. Although he couldn't understand, Creo still obeyed Chen Hao's order. Chen Hao nodded slightly. He stood on the deck and looked forward. The 4 arms behind Creo moved, and its eyes glowed green. It operated in the void. The black barrier wrapped the battleship deck, making the spherical battleship more like a sphere. A huge warp engine entrance appeared in front of Chen Hao and Creo. The Creo battleship slowly flew into the warp engine entrance. Chen Hao looked at the warp engine entrance getting closer and closer, and he had some expectations in his heart. Diamond is currently a red dwarf, and red dwarfs are the smallest stars. If Diamond continues to devour and gain mass, then she will continue to evolve. What will the next evolution be? I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 488. The moment the battleship Creo entered the warp channel, Chen Hao felt his eyes go dark, then light up. He looked forward, and he could see a spherical celestial body in the distance. The celestial body is dark brown in color and is slightly larger than Jupiter. Brown dwarf Chen Hao looked at the star in front of him and immediately made a judgment. Chen Hao touched his chin. Also, my requirement is for objects less than 80 Jupiter masses. Below 80 Jupiter masses, apart from planets, only brown dwarfs remain. An information bar appeared in front of Chen Hao. Brown dwarf unnamed planet. The mass is 75 Jupiter masses. Seeing this, Chen Hao smiled. The quality is just right. The universal book appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao stretched out his hand, opened the omnipotent book, and took out the God Realm star card from the book. Change. The crimson light lit up slightly, and the light broke away from the God Realm star card and fell in front of Chen Hao. A petite silhouette appeared in front of Chen Hao. It's the Little Diamond. Little Diamond had her eyes closed. She slowly opened her eyes, revealing her diamond-like eyes. She looked at Chen Hao, and Chen Hao's figure was reflected in her eyes. As soon as Little Diamond saw Chen Hao, her eyes lit up slightly. Master. After saying hello to Chen Hao, Little Diamond turned her face slightly and looked at Chen Hao's side. Beside Chen Hao, Cleo was standing there, looking expressionlessly. Little Diamond looked at Cleo. She looked away and looked at Chen Hao with a smile on her face. Master, do you need to go to Little Diamond's place? Hearing this, Chen Hao crossed his arms over his chest, smiled, did not speak, and just looked in one direction. Little Diamond looked in the direction Chen Hao was looking at, her eyes narrowed slightly. That's a brown dwarf. She seemed to realize something, looked at Chen Hao, and said, Master, is that my next goal? Yet Chen Hao nodded slightly and said with a smile, go and get it done. Okay, Little Diamond smiled happily, and she disappeared from the spot. Chen Hao looked in the direction of the brown dwarf. I saw a crimson-red dwarf suddenly appearing next to the brown dwarf. Red dwarfs are much larger than brown dwarfs. When the small diamond transformed into a red dwarf, the two were attracted by each other's gravity and began to revolve around each other. The outer atmosphere of the brown dwarf began to peel off, surrounding the red dwarf little by little, and submerged into the red dwarf. When Chen Hao saw this familiar swallowing scene, he looked away, then looked at the God Realm star card in his hand, and waved his hand. The card flew out and turned into white light. The light instantly flew into the distance and turned into a dwarf planet, which was the God Realm star. It will take some time for Little Diamond to devour the brown dwarf star, so he needs to rest in the God Realm star first. Chen Hao was planning to teleport back to the God Realm star. However, a voice interrupted Chen Hao's thoughts. Woke up. Hearing this voice, Chen Hao was slightly startled. He looked towards the source of the voice and saw Kaiyan standing there slim and graceful. She folded her hands under her chest and stared at Chen Hao with a charming smile on her lips. Chen Hao looked at Caiyan, is something wrong? Kaiyan smiled, don't be so cold. I am a girl after all, so be gentle to me. What he said, made Chen Hao completely silent. Chen Hao touched his nose, if you have something to say, just tell me. If it's okay, I'll go home first. It's something. Kaiyan looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, about fallen angels, and related to Angel Bell, I just don't know if you are interested in knowing. You want to talk about the civil war in the angel civilization, right? Chen Hao said, when Angel Ling left, she told me that some angels had fallen and chose to betray the angel civilization, thus provoking a war. I know about the war. I want to say it's the result of the current war. Kaiyan looked at Chen Hao playfully. She smiled and said, it's been a month since the war began. The results have come out now. Do you want to know? Hearing this, Chen Hao was startled and he frowned. Will the war end so soon? However, there is no need for Kaiyan to lie to herself. Chen Hao looked at Kaiyan and said casually, I am indeed somewhat interested. Kaiyan smiled and said with a naughty smile, then, how about kissing me and I'll tell you? Or, I'll kiss you. Chen Hao rolled his eyes, if you want to say it, just say it. If you don't want to say it, I will push you down. He looked away and was about to leave. Well, it's true, it's really boring. Kaiyan smiled, Angel lost. Chen Hao was stunned. He frowned and looked at Caiyan, defeat. Chen Hao frowned, isn't the angel civilization the strongest civilization in the known universe? Well, but the problem is that the fallen angels themselves are the angels of the angel civilization. This is the civil war of the angel civilization. Kaiyan said, the angel civilization's biggest reliance is actually the angel king Bai Ling. But, Unfortunately, this time by Ling he was plotted and killed without using his full strength. Now the angel star is occupied by fallen angels, and all the angels have escaped. Now the angels are scattered in various places in the known universe, and those fallen angels are chasing them everywhere. Hearing this, Chen Hao frowned. This result was somewhat difficult for Chen Hao to accept. The most powerful angel civilization was defeated like this. The king of angels was also killed. But Chen Hao had to accept Cai Yan's statement, because this was a civil war of the angel civilization. It's just, it happened too fast, which made Chen Hao a little bit unacceptable. Suddenly, Chen Hao thought of Angel Bell. He looked at Cai Yan. Where is Angel Bell? Cai Yan smiled, I know you care about her, don't worry, she was injured in that battle, but fortunately it was not fatal. Now she and her companions have also fled from the Angel Star, and now I don't know where she is hiding. Hearing this, Chen Hao breathed a sigh of relief. For Chen Hao, Angel Bell is a friend. As a friend, Chen Hao doesn't want her to get into trouble. Now that Bai Ling is dead, the whole universe will be in chaos, Cai Yan suddenly said. Chen Hao was startled, he looked at Cai Yan, what do you mean? Cai Yan looked at Chen Hao, she smiled and said, don't you know? Angels always think the balance of the universe is normal, they like to protect the weak. But in this universe, there are many bloodthirsty civilizations, and those civilizations have a strong desire for expansion, but because they are suppressed by the angel civilization, they have always stayed in their own territory. Now that the angel main star is occupied by the fallen angels, Bai Ling is dead, then those civilizations will naturally begin to show their bloodthirsty side. Chen Hao frowned, is there such a thing? Suddenly, Cai Yan's smile froze, she seemed to feel something, and subconsciously looked in one direction. Master Creo's voice came. Chen Hao came back to his senses, he looked at Creo, and found that Creo was also looking in the same direction, which was exactly where Cai Yan was looking. Chen Hao looked in that direction. I saw a dark black hole appeared over there. The exit of the warp channel? A warship slowly flew out of the warp channel. The appearance of this warship surprised Chen Hao. This warship was like a black longsword suspended in the air. The hilt of the longsword warship was conical, and 3 figures stood on the hilt. Chen Hao looked closely and found that the 3 figures were all wearing black armor and had black wings behind them. It's a fallen angel, Cai Yan's voice came, and there was a solemnity in the voice. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 489. Cai Yan looked at Chen Hao and said, they are probably here to find you. The warship approached this side. When the distance was about the same, the 3 fallen angels flapped their black wings and flew towards this side. Their figures fell in front of Chen Hao and others. Chen Hao looked carefully and found that all 3 were women. All 3 had long black hair and black eyes, and even the armor on their bodies was black. One of them was obviously the captain of the 3-person team. She walked in front, her eyes swept over Cai Yan and Creo, and finally fell on Chen Hao. She raised her chin, looked arrogant, stared at Chen Hao coldly, and said lightly, are you Chen Hao? Listening to the words of this expressionless guy, coupled with this arrogant tone, Chen Hao felt uncomfortable all over. This guy came here, obviously not to find him with good intentions. Chen Hao would not be polite to impolite people. He replied indifferently, before asking others, it is better to introduce yourself first. When the fallen angel heard this, she narrowed her eyes and sneered softly, you are quite a character. Okay, let me tell you who I am. My name is Yun, I come from Angel Star, and I am a black angel. Yun crossed her arms, tilted her head slightly, stared at Chen Hao, and looked him up and down. Angel, Chen Hao said, isn't it a fallen angel? Yun frowned. The two fallen angels behind Yun also frowned, and looked at Chen Hao with a little more hostility. I am not a fallen angel, Yun said coldly. I advise you not to call us with such a disgusting name, otherwise you will bear the consequences. We are new angels, you can call us black angels. Hearing this, Chen Hao understood. In the eyes of others, these guys are fallen angels, but in their own eyes, they are new angels, calling themselves black angels. Then, these guys don't like others to call them fallen angels. Yun looked at Chen Hao. I have investigated you and know your story. You are the one chosen by the high-dimensional civilization, right? Well, now I give you two choices. Yun raised her hand and raised her index finger. Her black eyes stared at Chen Hao, and her expression was cold. 1. Surrender to the Black Angel civilization, become a member of the Black Angel in the future, and work for the Black Angel. Chen Hao frowned. Yun raised her index and middle fingers. 2. Become the enemy of the Black Angel, and then we will use our means to erase your existence. Hearing this, Chen Hao completely understood. Angels respect the independent thinking of any life. They only protect the weak and guard the balance of the universe. And what these black angels want is conquest. Chen Hao stared at Yun and said calmly, I choose the third one. Third, Yun retracted her hand and said, there is no third one. Chen Hao said, if I say there is, there is. The third one is that I will become your enemy and make you pay for your rudeness. Yun was stunned. She looked at Chen Hao, blinked, and raised the corner of her mouth. He. Yun laughed out loud, and her smile faded. How stupid. After the voice fell, Yun raised her hand, and a black long sword appeared in her hand. She moved her body and appeared in front of Chen Hao. She swung the long sword in her hand and fought on Chen Hao's neck. She was so fast that no one on the field reacted, and the blade had already chopped on Chen Hao's neck. However, Yun stopped moving, and she frowned. What is your body made of? She wanted to cut Chen Hao's neck directly with the sword, but she didn't expect that the long sword couldn't cut Chen Hao's neck at all. Chen Hao looked at Yun and glanced at Creo beside him. He saw that Creo's body had been pierced by another black angel with a black long sword, and his body disappeared with white light. Kayan, who was next to him, had been held on the neck by another black angel with a long sword. Kayan had a smile on her face, but the smile was a bit helpless. Creo was killed and his body had returned to the Universal Book, while Kayan was not killed, probably because the black angels were concerned about the demon civilization behind Kayan. Chen Hao retracted his sight and looked at Yun in front of him. You will regret what you are doing now. Yun was startled. She snorted. She retracted the long sword, took 3 steps back, and then raised her hand to Chen Hao. I can't destroy your body, but I can seal you, and you won't be able to leave in the future. As the voice fell, a transparent 3-dimensional crystal block emerged from around Chen Hao, locking Chen Hao's body in this transparent crystal block. Chen Hao looked at the crystal block. He was slightly startled, looked around. What is this? This is a space prison. This thing can change the space you are in, turning the space into a wall. This space prison, even with Bai Ling's technology, will take some time to come up with. And with your current technology, it is wishful thinking, Yun said lightly. After that, you stay here forever. Yun said, while you stay in this space prison, we Black Angels will study you and turn the technology you have now, which we don't understand, into the technological power we have. When you lose your usefulness, it will be your death. Chen Hao's heart moved. He wanted to use teleportation to leave. But there was no response. Chen Hao said, AI, create a warp engine. The space nearby is unstable, and the warp engine cannot be used. The AI's mechanical voice sounded in his ears. Hearing this, Chen Hao understood. No wonder it is called the space prison. It turns out to be used to restrict the use of the warp engine. The warp engine is to compress the space and also move at superluminal speed, and this requires a stable space. In the space prison, the space is unstable, so the warp engine naturally cannot be used. Xiaoying's teleportation is actually based on the principle of the warp engine, so naturally, it cannot move. Chen Hao walked to the space prison and looked at the transparent wall in front of him. In other words, he is now trapped here? His body is indeed immortal, but the problem is that immortality does not mean that it will not be controlled, no. Chen Hao remembered that his body does not seem to be easy to control. Although his strength is not good, in previous battles, no matter how strong the opponent is, as long as he does not want to move, the opponent cannot beat him away. So, if that is the case. Chen Hao raised his hand and placed it on the transparent wall of the space prison. It felt a little cold, as if it was placed on glass. Yun looked at this scene, her hands folded across her chest, her face raised proudly, and said lightly, "Don't struggle." Although this wall is a transparent material, it is actually a phenomenon that occurs after space compression, and it is not a real material. Not to mention your power, even if the entire planet smashes into it, it can't shake this thing a bit. Chen Hao ignored Yun, and his hand pushed slightly. Bang! Accompanied by a strange sound, the entire space prison exploded. Yun was stunned, her eyes widened. The other two black angels were also stunned. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 490. When Kaiyan saw this, she was stunned for a moment. The space prison is the top technological product of angel civilization. Even if Bai Ling is trapped by this thing, even if she uses her omniscient book, it will take time to unlock it, Kaiyan murmured, and he broke this spatial prison with his hands. The wings behind the three black angels spread out and their bodies flew into the air. Yun frowned and stared at Chen Hao. "Chen Hao, just wait for me." After finishing her words, Yun looked at the two black angels behind her and said, "Let's go." "Want to leave now?" "It's too late," Chen Hao suddenly said. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Yun was startled. She looked at Chen Hao with a hint of doubt in her eyes. "What do you want to do?" Chen Hao looked at Yun and said calmly, "What do I want to do? You will know in a moment." As he spoke, he took out a card from the omnipotent book. With a wave of his hand, the card flew out. "Change." As Chen Hao's voice fell, the cards disappeared. Suddenly, beside Yun, the two black angels were suddenly surrounded by two red rings around their waists. The two black angels came to their senses and were stunned for a moment. "What is this?" One of the black angels struggled subconsciously, trying to break free from the red halo, but found that his body could not move. The black wings behind them flapped, but they couldn't break free. When Yun saw the situation of her two companions beside her, she frowned and immediately said, Su, use the warp engine." Black Angel Su looked at Black Angel Yun and said, "Sister Yun, I can't use it." Black Angel Su also had a face full of panic. "Sister Yun." The red ring lit up with red light and swallowed the two black angels instantly. The two black angels disappeared together with the red ring. Black Angel Yun was stunned. She frowned and looked at Chen Hao. But he saw three more cards in front of Chen Hao, and the cards were suspended in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao looked at the cards in front of him and took a look. He was slightly startled. Black Angel Warrior Su. Taming degree, 100%. Strength, 3 generations of genetic warriors. Black Angel Warrior Su. Taming degree, 100%. Strength, 3 generations of genetic warriors. Seeing this, Chen Hao couldn't help but blinked. Tamed instantly. Chen Hao had tamed Frog and Creo before, and he also noticed that as Little Diamond became stronger and stronger, the taming speed gradually became faster. but Chen Hao never thought that he could reach the speed and tame it directly after capturing it. It doesn't even take any time. Is this the benefit of small diamonds evolving into stars? Chen Hao looked at the Black Angel rhyme above and said, "That's just right." Black Angel Yun's beautiful face was as gloomy as water at the moment. She stared at Chen Hao coldly. "You'd better let my companion go immediately, otherwise, your move will be equivalent to declaring war with Black Angel." Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at Black Angel Yun playfully. "You are so childish. It is you who are declaring war now. It was you who attacked me first, and now I am just fighting back." Black Angel Yun's face was as gloomy as water. "But..." Chen Hao looked at Black Angel Yun. He crossed his arms and said, "Don't you want me to release your companions?" "Yes, I can release them now to meet your expectations." After finishing his words, Chen Hao stretched out his hand and held the two Black Angel cards in front of him. Change. The two Black Angel cards turned into two figures together. It is Black Angelica and Black Angelica. These two Black Angels appeared in front of Chen Hao, with their eyes closed after appearing. After they appeared, they slowly opened their eyes and looked at Chen Hao. Their eyes lit up slightly. "Master," the two of them greeted Chen Hao in unison. Chen Hao nodded slightly. "Are you crazy?" Black Angel Yun suddenly shouted. Chen Hao looked at Black Angel Yun and saw Black Angel Yun staring at this place with disbelief. Black Angel Yun said loudly, "He is the enemy of our Black Angel. What's going on with you two? How can you call him master?" Black Angel Su glanced at Black Angel Yun, then looked at Chen Hao. "Master, Su and I can help you deal with her, do you need us to do it?" Black Angel Yun, who was flying in the air, was stunned when she heard Black Angel Su's words. She stared blankly here with disbelief on her face. Kayan on the side also had surprise in her eyes when she saw this scene. Although Kayan knew that Chen Hao had tamed Frog and Creo, she also knew that Chen Hao had brainwashed Creo. Brainwashing is nothing to advanced civilizations. Brainwashing is actually using technology to compile a person's information database and insert a written story to guide that person and turn that person into the existence you want. Of course, the technology that can brainwash naturally also has the means to resist brainwashing. The name of that means is information lock, which directly locks the information database so that others cannot enter one's information database. If one cannot enter, it cannot be programmed. Therefore, advanced civilizations like the 7 major civilizations all have this method, and among them, the technological method of the angel civilization is the most powerful. Cai Yan was a little surprised that Chen Hao could brainwash Frog and Creo from the Zerg civilization, but it was still within her acceptable range. But now she saw Chen Hao brainwashing the Black Angel who was born in the angel civilization, which made Cai Yan a little unbelievable. Chen Hao said lightly, "You two go and persuade her to choose to submit to me. If she doesn't want to, kill her. Just like what she did to me just now." Black Angel Su and Black Angel Su looked at each other, then looked at Chen Hao and nodded, "Yes." The wings behind them spread, and the two figures flew up into the sky, holding black long swords, and stood face to face with Black Angel Yun. Black Angel Yun looked at the two guys who were just companions but now turned into enemies. She frowned and said, "You two have been brainwashed. That guy is the enemy, not your master." Black Angel Su heard this and looked at Black Angel Yun. "Sister Yun, it's not that we are brainwashed, but you, Sister Yun, don't understand him. You don't know how great he is. If you knew, I think you would choose to serve him like me and Su for the rest of your life." "Pooh," Black Angel Yun spit fiercely and frowned, "Just him? Great. He is just a lucky guy chosen by a high-dimensional civilization. What's so great about him? You want me to be like you? Disgusting." Black Angel Su continued expressionlessly, "Sister Yun, he is actually the master of all things and the existence that created this universe. Just like me, I am actually a life form created by him. He is great and cannot be desecrated. Sister Yun, believe me, I don't want to be your enemy, but if you don't choose to submit to him, then I can only be your enemy, Black Angel Su said lightly. Black Angel Yun's face darkened. You. Come on if you want to fight. Don't think I'm afraid of you. Black Angel Su and Black Angel Su looked at each other and nodded. Then the two Black Angels attacked together, holding long swords and rushing towards Black Angel Yun. Black Angel Yun's pupils condensed, and he hurried to fight.